Hey basketball players, today I'm going to be breaking down Kyle Korver's shooting form and how you can shoot the basketball better, just like Kyle Korver. He is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA today. So here we have Kyle Korver in a pre-game warm-up. I like to really break these down because there's not all of the stresses there is associated with in-game shooting. So we can really check out how his shooting form is. So what we have here is when he catches that ball, he brings the ball up. At first he catches it in the middle, but he brings it over towards his right knee, and he's able to bring it up into his set point. Now, from here, what do we see? Well, this foot on the right side, it's slightly pointing right. Now, occasionally in game, it does point right, but if it's a set shot where he receives the pass to shoot right away and doesn't have to turn or dribble into his shot, that foot is usually straight towards the basket, as we see with the left foot. Next, we also have his shot when he shoots. When he's a bit lower, his shoulders are in line with the back of his knees, not the front, but it is in line with his toes. This is going to be a very balanced shot. We also see that his left shoulder is roughly the same distance away from the rim, same as his hips. They are all in line with the basket. From there, when he brings that ball up, there is not really any movement on his elbow at all. There's a slight, maybe I would say 4 or 5 degree bend that happens in his elbow, but that's not a lot. You really want to cut down the amount of movement that you have in your shot. Now, when he goes up to his set point, he holds his set point for a while. It's a 2-step shot. It's not a 1-step where it just goes up and shot. There's no holding in his set point. While Kyle Korver does hold his set point for a bit of time. We also see that his forearm and his bicep, tricep area of his arm, his upper arm, is pretty well a 90-degree angle. Now, this is how I like to shoot myself because I find that actually gives me a faster release. This is very beneficial, especially if you've got massive players trying to block your shot. From here, he is able to be straight up in his shot. Once he is shooting, he's not leaning left, right, or back. He is going straight up into his shot. Now, his set point is roughly above his right eye, slightly in the corner of his forehead, but above his head. His offhand is pointing straight up, as we can see here, and we will get a little bit of a closer view on that soon. He is able to now have his shoulder in line with his elbow as well, which gives him a perfectly straight shot towards the basket. His wrist to elbow is also slightly straight up and down as well. It's maybe off by a degree or two from this angle at least. And then he's able to release that ball, and he brings his arm down right away. He only locks his elbow for a fraction of a second. By the time he lands, he bends his elbow and he brings it down. Now, for some players, you may want to keep your hand up there for maybe a second longer or a half a second longer after you land. Some players find that beneficial because then the ball doesn't go wonky on them, but at the same time, he is able to release the ball and leave his hand up there long enough so that it doesn't affect his shot. Some players will try to spring their arm back quickly before they release the ball. That's why we always like to teach players to keep their arms up so that the reflex on their elbow doesn't affect the shot. And we also notice that he roughly lands about where he takes off from. That is a nice straight up and down shot. We also see that there is a slight gap between the ball and the palm. We can see that by the shadows that it is casting. However, keep in mind that some players will have a larger gap than others, and usually good shooters have a gap, but nothing more than a finger width of distance. Usually you want to have a finger width or less of distance so that you can grip that ball perfectly. Now we can see from this angle that, of course, the wrist is pretty well above the elbow, which is fantastic, and that release forward he's able to lock the elbow above his head, and check out the gooseneck on his wrist. There's a lot of players who do not finish with their hand all the way down, and believe me, if you focus on your wrist being down like Kyle Korver's is there, your shot is going to have a lot of rotation, which is going to help it bounce in, but also help the ball go perfectly straight. It's called flicking forward. It's fantastic. I really want to emphasize this wrist movement of Kyle Korver's because it is something that we can all really learn from. He's able to go up with that shot, and look at it flick. I'm going to go into slow motion. I'm going to rewind it just a bit, and we're going to go into slow motion. Check out that flick. That is a very good forward flick on his hand. Now from this angle, it looks like he is a middle finger shooter, and we also notice up top when he's shooting that he releases with his middle finger, and we also see no thumb flick. His thumb is right out of the way. It's not like Steph Curry who shoots with a thumb flick. Kyle Korver does not. So for all those players who say, oh my god, Steph Curry shoots with a thumb flick, I need to shoot with a thumb flick, you can still shoot extremely well without one as well. You really don't want to have a thumb flick because, to be honest with you, for some players it works, but for other players it will affect the spin and arc of the shot, and you really don't want that. However, if it's working for you, don't fix something that's not broken. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time.